Hi, I'm Nandita Correa, Director of the Charles Correa Foundation. And on behalf of the foundation, I would like to welcome you to the Nagri reruns. It's the first of the series, and we will show one of the 10 films that were commissioned in 2020 for the short film competition we organized. Today's film, Urta Banaras, is a documentary looking at displacement and resettlement caused by redevelopment in the old city of Banaras. The film illustrates very well what all 10 films are about that were about last year, the issues of housing adequacy. In other words, how do we as a society provide for all of us to have shelter that is secure, that is accessible, that's near our jobs and connected to our communities, to our neighborhoods. Urta Banaras is made by Apurva Jaiswal and Manas Krishna and is mentored by Rajula Shah, all of whom will be joining us today for the discussion. I want to say something about the process and support that we provide through Nagri. After the 10 film outlines are selected, a mentor from our panel will guide the team of filmmakers to develop it into a film. And I believe that makes a unique opportunity to learn and work with some truly outstanding professionals. I'm saying this to as we just a couple of days ago launched this year's competition, Nagri 2021. Nagri intends to be a bioscope for the city, and through this lens, we explore diverse urban conditions and focus our attention on them. For those of us who remember bioscopes, they were projection boxes carried around by men who would set them up at the on a foldable stand on at a street corner. And I remember um, they were there until the 1960s in Mumbai. Um, and for 5 or 10 paise, you could put your eye up to the lens and watch a dance scene or a song from a Bollywood movie. Nagri intends to be a bioscope for the city and for our urban areas. And through this lens each year, we will explore diverse conditions and focus our attention on them. This year, Nagri will address the subject of people and livelihoods in Indian cities. In the unanimous judgment of the Supreme Court of India in Olga Tellis versus Bombay Municipal Corporation, the court said that an equally important facet of the right to life is the right to livelihood, because no person can live without the means of livelihood. Understanding the struggles for a decent livelihood in cities could reveal the structure and history of communities and occupations that have been marginalized and unreported. Nagri will look at how the planning of cities shapes the lives of people trying to earn a livelihood. Thus, the films could focus on individuals or groups within a city or across the country even. So if you're interested in participating, please go to our website and submit an outline for your proposal, or write to us at nagri@charleskoreafoundation.org for any query, or even if you need help in connecting with possible collaborators to form a team. We would be happy to help in any way, but we're really interested that if you have an idea as to how you would like to, or what the film would be about, please submit your outline. We will now show the film Urta Banaras, followed by a discussion led by the CCF team of Tahir Narona, who is our convener, and Adwait Adke, who is a fellow here at the foundation. This session will give you the opportunity to ask the filmmakers and the mentor questions about the film. So now to the screening of the film. Thank you.
पहले आनंदवन था, फिर आनंदवन के बाद काशी हुआ, काशी के बाद लोग उर्दू शब्द बनारस बोलते हैं। अब अंग्रेज लोग आए तो वाराणसी बोलते हैं। वाराणसी का जो संगम होता है तो वाराणसी शहर टापू टाइप पर है और 500 वर्ष पुरानी सबसे पुरानी काशी नगरी है। ये ओल्ड सिटी है सर, हेरिटेज सिटी है, ना इसको तोड़ा जा सकता है ना बनाया जा सकता है सर। तो ये किस आधार पे इन्होंने तोड़ा है बिल्डिंगों को? हेरिटेज सिटी को ना तोड़ा जा सकता है। इतना चौड़ा जगह किसके लिए चाहिए? यात्री के लिए इतना चौड़ा जगह नहीं चाहिए। हेलीकॉप्टर उतरने के लिए या फिर कार आने के लिए या बस आने के लिए सुविधा की जा रही है सर। जब पतली गलियां रहेगी तो बनारस का वजूद क्या रहेगा? लेकिन हम समझते हैं बनारस बदल रहा है। अब बदलने से टूरिज्म आएंगे नहीं कभी। टूरिज्म जब भी आएंगे पतली गलियां ही घूमने आएंगे। अब स्मार्ट सिटी नहीं सर, ये उड़ता शहर बनारस बन जाएगा, उड़ता शहर काशी हो जाएगा। मतलब कि बनारस खत्म हो रहा है और क्यूटो आ रहा है।
फिर आप घाट पे फोटोग्राफी करते हैं?
जी अभी तो करते हैं नहीं, लेकिन करते थे और है में बहुत फर्क पड़ता है भैया।
क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं?
क्योंकि यात्री नहीं आ रहे, टूरिज्म नहीं आ रहे हैं। और वहाँ पे क्या है कि अभी जब टूरिज्म आएंगे नहीं तो हम कमाई कर नहीं सकते। और अलग अलग घाट पे ही अलग अलग लोग फोटोग्राफर रहते हैं। जिस घाट का जो फोटोग्राफर उसी घाट पे फोटोग्राफी कर सकता है और किसी घाट पर जाकर फोटोग्राफी नहीं कर सकता।
फ्लैश के साथ क्यों खींचते हैं इनको जी?
इससे क्या होता है कि इस चेहरे पे जो ये डक्स आने से चेहरे पे की खबर आ जाती है। दाग धब्बे नहीं आता और जो फेस होता है थोड़ा क्लीन हो जाता है। डल होने से अच्छा कि फेस पर थोड़ा सा क्लीन आ जाता है।
अच्छा, कैसे आई ये फोटो? अच्छी है ये?
मेरा मकान सी के बड़ा 35 हरजन बस्ती में है, था यानी कि अभी तो है नहीं, था। पहले तो 2017 में इसका आरंभ हुआ था। 2017 में बोला गया कि विश्वनाथ गंगा को विश्वनाथ से मिलाना है। गंगा पाथवे का योजना बताया पहले, फिर बाद में कहे गली को चौड़ीकरण करना है। फिर गली को चौड़ीकरण के नाम पर पूरा मकान ही तोड़ दिए। इस समय किसके पास पैसा की कोट जाए? पहले अपन परिवार चलाए कि आज से लड़ने जाए। सरकार से हम लड़ नहीं सकते। सरकार तो ऑलरेडी फ्री में लड़ेगी। हमारा कौन किसी जो भी लड़ेगा पैसा लेगा। जिसको मैं कहूँगा है पागल है, लोग मुझे पागल कहेंगे। हाँ सर मैं पागल हूँ, मकान टूटने के बाद मैं पागल तो ही गया हूँ, जिनका वजूद ख़त्म कर दिए आप। आखिर मैं 6 पीढ़ी से रहता रहा, वहाँ जानते रहे लोग कि ये 6 पीढ़ी से यहाँ पर है। कोई भी आंख बंद कर मेरे घर आ सकता रहा। आज आप आ रहे हो तो मैं इस बार मिल रहा हूँ, आप भी मुझे आकर वहाँ ढूंढ रहे हैं ना सर। अगर मोबाइल नंबर नहीं होता तो आप मुझे वहाँ ढूंढते। ये क्यूटो बनाने के चक्कर में लगे हैं। क्यूटो में फिर भी इतिहास अपना सहयोग कर रखा है, तोड़ा नहीं है क्यूटो में। जो जापान में क्यूटो बना है वो क्यूटो बनाना चाह रहे थे शहर को। केवल एक मंदिर के लिए क्यूटो बनेगा सर? ₹300 का अपना टिकट बेच रहे हैं, 180 रुपये का गंगा आरती का टिकट बेच रहे हैं, सिर्फ ये टिकट बेच रहे हैं। एक समय आएगा सर जी कि गंगा जी को देखने के लिए हमको पैसा देना पड़ेगा सर जी। अगर अपने घर को अगर लाइट को सजा दिया तो स्मार्ट नहीं हो जाता। स्मार्ट बनाने से स्मार्ट होता है, उसमें कुछ परिवर्तन लाना चाहिए। लाइट सजाने से सिर्फ डेकोरेशन किया जाता है, और डेकोरेशन कर रहे हैं।
धर्मनगरी काशी में अलकनंदा क्रूज का संचालन फिर से शुरू हो गया है। पूरी तरह से एयर कंडीशनड इस क्रूज में बैठने के लिए आरामदायक सीट है। रूफटॉप रेस्टोरेंट में लोग बैठकर अपने मनपसंद लंच और ब्रंच का लुत्फ उठा सकते हैं।
Hi all, I'm Tahir. I'm an architect at the Charles Correa Foundation. Thanks so much to Apurva and Manas for making this amazing film, Rajula for walking them through it, Nandita, of course, for the excellent introduction. And I'm just going to kick off the discussion immediately, but I'm sure that most of you all saw the whole film, and if you all have any questions, please do not hesitate to put them into the chat box, and we'll take them up with the filmmakers in the discussion as it goes along. So to start with Rajula, we would like to know what the process of working with these filmmakers on this film was like. And Manas and Krishna, you all can also come in whenever, Manas and Apurva, whenever you all want to, and share.
Yes. Yeah, so very nice to see you all. First of all, after now in the second cycle we are, this was the first cycle of Nagri short film competition in which this film was made. And I think it's a very, Tahir, for me, the experience was very valuable because one, it was during the time of the last pandemic. And already there were so many difficulties which were there apart from what was happening outside to deal with. And in that to bring focus back on practice. And because you all provided a brief which included the aspect of making a connect with your outside, with your city, with what is outside your home. I think it was a very important thing, first of all, to invite entries, proposals on that theme. And so everyone who was selected and after the mentoring process started, we were all working at one level similarly on a similar subject, various aspects of the similar thing, which was looking at the issues of urban housing and how it's designed or not designed and what kind of conditions people are having to live through, and on top of it, the pandemic. So I think it was very challenging for all of us, I remember, to even imagine how it would unfold, because it was all going to be online. And then, for example, like these two friends who are here, they were in two separate cities themselves. And so it was very difficult to even sometimes work out things. How will we go there? Manas was in Banaras and you were in Allahabad. Yeah, so both of them, have to coordinate and do that. And with that starting of that idea, which they gave on the proposal front, then starting to develop it, you come up with all sorts of new challenges. You go to the field, come back, something changes. Every day something changes. And so they were, I would really think that it was all also because of these two people who were taking that initiative to go and find out in the city, because that's where the real things were happening. And to bring them back, and then we would sort of discuss and figure out, okay, how can this whole narrative, because as you can imagine, if you have seen the film, what it tried to address in these 7 minutes is actually a much larger problem, much larger theme. So the main challenges were to also keep it in this duration, because when you start talking to people, then it becomes difficult. You can't cut them short in the middle. So how do you learn all this while doing so? I think it was a great learning experience for both sides, for all of us as mentors, working with different people across cities in the time of the lockdown, I think. And the fact that we were able to come up with 10 very different films, because I remember after that I showed it to a couple of people and all of them felt that connect that these films brought about. So I think it was a very, very nice experience of hard work, a lot of hard work, I think, but worthwhile, Right.
Thanks, Rajula. Hi guys. Hi, Apurva. Hi, Manasa Madhvait. I work with Charles Korea Foundation.
Hi.
So I think the most interesting part that I think everybody sort of must have got initiated with is that comparative between Banaras and Kyoto. And I think those flashes between the films, those glitch-like flashes between the films, I think initiate a question as to what is that comparative that you guys saw and why Kyoto in the first place?
So what happened is that after the election in which the BJP government came, our Prime Minister visited Japan, and as a cooperation, it was decided that they'll be converting, or they'll be, taking a lot of things how Kyoto was developed in Japan, and they'll be taking it and developing Varanasi on the same grounds. So it was an agreement that happened. Shinzo Abe was the Prime Minister then in Japan, and our Mr. Modi was there. And then it was on those lines that Banaras was said that it will be developed on the lines of Kyoto. There were 5 areas in which those developments were to be taken up. Also, some people from Varanasi, some officers went to Japan to study how Kyoto is, how it functions. So what has happened in Kyoto is that they have managed to somehow preserve a very old city and also modernize it in many ways. So the waste management is modernized. The way the streets function, the way the transportation function there has been modernized. So the idea was to take ideas from Kyoto and how it was developed and to implement it in our city, in Varanasi. So that is the main idea. And after a point, this entire idea could not be transferred in the entirety of it. And also, if you see the film, it basically talks about that what is the idea of development that you're talking about. And I think our protagonist also says at certain point in the film that in Kyoto, they preserved what was historic in their city, which you are not doing it if you're demolishing all the old buildings and demolishing the gully that was there. So there is a certain, after a period of some years, we saw that idea could not be transferred or implemented in Varanasi in its entirety. And then we this idea came that let's use that glitching image as a metaphor also, that shows the absurdity of transferring or just trying to superimpose another city onto another city without understanding the way they function in their individual capacities. So that was it.
Thanks, Manas. From your question, actually, Chinmay has asked a question saying, what was the initial idea that you all gave us as a proposal? Did it by any chance come from an annoyance to the changes that the city was going through and how the history of the place was fading? He also comments that the addition of the Kyoto element really takes it to a different level.
So the initial proposal, when we were doing the research, so what happened is that the moment a project like this was announced, it got a lot of media attention. So when we started reading, Apurva and me, when we were reading it, we saw that what had happened is that the people who mainly resided in that area, in that particular area where demolitions have happened, belong to a particular class and caste, which were traditionally the supporters or the voters of the government. So they somehow got a lot of representation in the media also, but we realized that there were a significant amount of Dalit people who were living in that area. And if you have been to Varanasi, there is this ghat called Jalasin Ghat, and on top of that there was this Dalit Basti. They used to call it Harijan Basti or Chamarotia in the local terms. So there around 500 families, 500 houses were there of Dalit people. And when we started reading about them, we saw that there was no representation of these people in the voices of dissent that was there in the media. And also there was a certain denial that there was a community or there was, a population of Dalit people existing. In those reports, there were people who said there were no Dalit Bastis. But when we started reading about it, and when we went to the ground, we got to know that there were a significant amount of people living there. So on the question that Chatan is asking, that yeah, definitely it was about the changes that in a city that are happening, and that idea of development, what it should be and what it should entail, but also the erasure of history of a particular community of people. And this community being the most vulnerable, and they don't have their voices in the mainstream, so they become the most vulnerable and those who lose out the most. So our idea was also to document the voice of that community, apart from all the other, development, the issues around development, which is there.
And
So,
it's
yeah.
an idea that we are trying to take forward in this year's edition of the Nagri, especially as we focus this year on an idea of livelihoods and how the planning of a city shapes the livelihoods of those who live within it. So building on the second thing you've said, Manas, when you're talking about development, very often the largest argument for urban renewal projects, like for example, what's happening in Banaras, is that they are marketed as means to enhance tourism. So why do you think Rinku, your subject, who himself is an important stakeholder in the tourism industry, why does he have concerns with this?
Apurva, would you like to take it?
Yeah, so that's the point, that Rinku ji and people from his community are definitely stakeholders in theory, but whether their problems or their concerns are actually considered while taking on projects like this are actually considered or not is the issue that we were actually getting at in the film. So what Rinku ji told us is during the meetings, the committee meetings that used to happen for the redevelopment project, where people from the community and architects and the people who were working on the redevelopment project, when these meetings used to happen, nobody from his community was invited to those meetings where actual decisions were being taken. And so most of the upper caste people of the locality, they were invited to those meetings, or for the people who were directly related to the temple, who eventually were the upper caste people. And after decisions were taken in those meetings and the compensation money was decided, the compensation prices were decided in those meetings, the people from Rinkuji's locality were just informed that ye decide ho gaya and this is what is going to happen to you. They were never really asked about what their problems are or what problems would they face after the redevelopment happened. So even though it's a huge number, as Manas mentioned, the number of people affected was huge. They were never really considered as important stakeholders or decision-making stakeholders, if I must say that. And even just like maybe the women of the houses that were broken down, I don't think their opinions were ever considered, considering what would be the effect on their livelihoods or on their lives in general. The same applies to which caste was considered while taking these decisions. So I think Rinkuji's caste and class locations really played a huge role and in how much of a decision-making power he had.
Thanks, Apurva.
I think, I mean, now that we are talking about Rinkuji in the film, I think it's a very important but interesting characterization. So do you think that Rinkuji is a characterization of the city of Banaras per se? Because when you are talking about the city getting revamped into a new city or into a new urban renewal project for that matter, do you see Rinkuji as a character of the film where he's representing the city per se?
See, representing a city, it's a very complex statement, so to speak, because a city and the experience of a city is very different for people living of different class, community, all the gender and all those reasons. Because I come from the same city, but I had never had the same experience as what Rinkuji was having. So it's very difficult to say that experience or a individual can represent a city, which I feel, because a city in itself has a multi-dimensional character. It cannot be said that okay, cities, it's maybe more of an interaction of people with that city, and it maybe forms a story of that city. So in that sense, Rinkuji definitely represents a lot of voices of people which were part of that city, and their concerns, but I don't know if he represents the entire city. Definitely, he had a very intimate connection with the city, with the old Varanasi, the way we know it. He had a very intimate interaction, day-to-day interaction with the city, and thus a more intimate connection than most of the other inhabitants of the city, like me. So through which we say that okay, what he was representing was what he's representing is a very valid and important point, but I'm not very sure about whether he represents the entire city or not.
I was wondering, Anusha's put something interesting in the chat when it comes to filmmaking. She says the idea of speaking through the billboards and banners is very interesting. Was it something that was conceptualized on site, or was it part of your initial outline?
Also probably adding to the question, I think, Rinkuji being a part or a medium in the film, do you think like billboards are also those vectors in the film that you are using to carry that narrative forward?
Yeah, so I am from the city. I was not living lately much in the city, but whenever I used to come back, so you would see this billboard slapped in the entire city. And when you read it, it's a paradox. The city around it is something else, and you're promising something else. And at times you see internal contradictions in what it's saying. It's saying that there is one poster, one billboard, which is also included in the film. It says Vigyan bhi Vidhan bhi, which says that we'll preserve the rituals also, and we'll also go for science. I don't know how both the things is gonna be, and a place where both the things are taught. So you see all those contradictions slapped in the entire city. There is this billboard which says that कि हमें अपना जो पुराना धरोहर है उसको बचाना है, and then you see the entire thing that they're doing with this entire Kashi Vishwanath Wala project. They're just bulldozing it entirely. So and it also appears very tokenistic, but because I was telling to ma'am that, ma'am, when I am from Varanasi, I get stuck in traffic jams daily. So I have entire different image of the city. And when I stuck in those traffic jams, when I see upwards and there is some smart city promise that is there, it's very bizarre and it's very paradoxical. It also looks like tokenistic, like you're fooling around people. Okay, so those billboards were always there. It was there in the city, but it was not a part of initial conceptualization. But when we were shooting it, when we were shooting across the city, we realized that in the given time span, which is of 7 minutes, we have to really say complex issues. And the runtime of the film was very limited. So we had to issue very complex, ideas around development. So we found that these billboards say a lot of things. And since they are towards the government, they are actually sponsored from the Varanasi Development Authority or from the, let's say, government of Uttar Pradesh, government of India. So it becomes like a statement which they are giving. So in that sense,
also, sorry, just to add, it was definitely when we were shooting that we thought of it, because everywhere we went, there were these billboards. Any place you go in Banaras and these billboards will be there. And also it's such a visual representation of what's actually happening, things that we couldn't put in words, or things that would have taken a lot, as Mana said, would have taken a longer runtime to explain in words. These billboards put it very easily and in a shorter and a more visual manner. Secondly, it was also very interesting how all of these visuals are very, very Hindu-centric and very, very specific to which religion and which sort of a culture are they trying to promote through these development plans. Even though development is supposed to be more inclusive and about everybody who lives in the city, but these visuals and these billboards, the kind of development they're seeking to promote, if not directly, very indirectly, it was very very Hindu-centric. And even the billboards that we use in the film, I think it's very apparent from that.
I'm going to share another reflection by Riddhi, who says public participation seems to be close to nil here. And she wants to thank you all for showing us how important it is for all stakeholders to be pivotal in terms of decision making, and how at times in these mega projects, they're completely sidelined. Now, as one builds on this, also, we're just thinking, since this film is so centric around a certain character of Rinkuji and his profession, and especially considering this year when we're looking at remaking films focusing on livelihood and the design of cities, if you all had to revisit within the same 5 to 7 minute timeline, how would you all maybe take a different swing at this film, this time through a lens of livelihood and the city?
To add on that, I'm sorry. Actually, to add on that, I mean, it's not really a question per se, but a reflection, or rather a paradox that we see in the film is that at the start, Rinkuji is actually talking about how the flash from the camera blemishes something on somebody's face. And then he has the stark photographs of the city. So there is something that he really wants to sort of transport through these images. So I assume there is something which exists for his livelihood per se, but a general sort of understanding of the city is his own thing to do, maybe.
Yeah, so one of the main concerns of this entire project, apart from the displacement that has happened and the inadequate compensation that was given, is also the question of livelihood. Because the people who resided in that particular area, understand it's the core portion of Varanasi, near the Kashi Vishwanath temple, so, and near the river. So the people who resided in that particular area had their livelihoods very closely linked to the river and very closely linked to the temple. So most of these people were actually who were dependent on all these people coming to visit the temple, and then their employment dependent on that. So also what we realized when we were filming this is that, and it was Rinkuji's concern as well, that when some new development happens like this, what is slowly happening in Varanasi is that there is a centralization of authority that is happening. So understand, when it was all those gullies and there were hundreds of shops, hundreds of people dependent on it, there was no central system to control them or to administer over them. Now, when the entire, all those things are broken, there and a Palacio has been built, there will be, let's say, 20 shops which will be ruled or governed by that trust or the temple trust. It will have a fixed amount of rent, and also the temple will be now deciding that which all people will be allotted those shops. So Rinkuji said that now when this complex is built, I will not be able to, do my job of photographer, which I used to do earlier. So all this project, no, it's very closely linked to the livelihood and the concern of people around their livelihood. That when people from outside will come and then they'll develop it in double quotes, where will we lie in that, in the entire scheme of development? Where will our employment, the way we used to conduct, will it be acknowledged or will it be concerned even or consulted even? The way it was done before the project was developed so far for Rinkuji, it's very bleak. We don't feel that when the entire complex will be built, Rinkuji will be called in and said, you were a photographer, we are giving you this place, take this chabutra, this is yours and you can operate your business from here. He said that I can't go in that complex where my house was once there. When I go there, I'm shooed away by the police. And now you have to give money for every little thing that you need to do, which were essentially free before this. So livelihood,
also, livelihoods are often very deeply connected with the public spaces and with the spaces that we live in. So Rinkuji had shared this anecdote with us that his younger sister, who was preparing for civil services, so she, when they were living in the old house near the Mandir complex, she used to visit people's houses and work there. So she was bringing in some amount of money because she was living in the area for so long. But when the redevelopment project happened and her house changed, she wasn't able to go out as much anymore because the sense of community was lost. So she wasn't able to work or provide for her family the way she was able to previously. So it wasn't just the fact that established livelihoods were lost. There were also these smaller things that were affected, which were maybe very important for her autonomy or for her sense of freedom. So it's more than, it's in multiple ways that the thing affected people there.
Okay, Shevi wants to know, what about the privileged people in Banaras from the settlements around where Rinkuji lives? When the redevelopment does come, do you all think that there will be development for them, or do you all assume that too will be a hollow promise?
So what has happened in this particular project is that